studying in England at the time at Cambridge, and I was in London to see a concert from a band called Titus Andronicus, which is actually a band from New Jersey, where I'm from. They were playing in London, so I went there with a friend, and in front of the venue, I guess Ava spotted me and she came up to me, and then yeah, we talked, and then a few weeks later they were doing a castings in London, and they took some photos, and then I went to Paris for Paris Fashion Week. It was like a few months, 2 months later was Paris Fashion Week. So I went to Paris, and my first runway show was Haider Ackermann. And I did some other shows at Rick Owens and some other shows that season. And then I did again the next season. I did Balenciaga and Kenzo.
But did Eva ever mention to you if she tried contacting Prada?
I think that was like the first thing she was saying.
Okay.
So I guess they tried Prada. Yeah, I never did Prada, but maybe it's still possible. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. What is your favorite movie?
Okay. I have a couple of favorite movies. One is Brazil by Terry Gilliam.
Well, I don't know this film.
One is, it's a great...
Is it a new film or is it an old film?
No, I think it's from the 80s.
From the 80s?
It's from Terry Gilliam. You know, he was one of the members of Monty Python, the only American, the guy who did the animations.
Yes.
And it's a great film, kind of science fiction, dystopian, but it's a wonderful film. I also really like Stalker from Tarkovsky. It's probably also one of my all-time favorites.
But you're not into filmmaking.
I am actually. I'm writing a screenplay at the moment. Yeah, I'm writing a screenplay with my friend Roman, he's already directed several films, and we want to get this film made. So we're working on this as well. This is a big project.
You know that you know the art of Alfred Hitchcock.
Of course.
How do you like it?
Of course, one of the greats, one of the all-time greats, and
you know the shots, how he would take the shots. Do you agree that he was really one of the best filmmakers of all time?
I think so, and I think he was definitely one of the most influential, because now after Hitchcock everyone is copying these techniques to create suspense, and yeah, definitely one of the masters of cinema.
And do you know Wim Wenders? You've seen Paris, Texas?
Paris, Texas, yeah.
That was one of his, that was splendid. He never won an Oscar. I don't know if he really tried.
Yeah,
he's known in the States. But he won the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
These are my favorites, actually.
Those are Wim Wenders and Hitchcock. Those are good. Yeah, I really like Tarkovsky as well, and I like Martin Scorsese a lot. I really like The Last Temptation of Christ by Scorsese, and The King of Comedy by Scorsese. That's one of my all-time favorites, with Robert De Niro.
But you would want to be filmmaker too, or just a
yeah, for sure. I really with the film, I think if we make this film, I think I will be co-directing the film, or definitely involved in the process, and I see that kind of as an extension of the work that I do with writing and visual. Like, in a way, making a comic book or a graphic novel is it's like making a film on like a $0 budget, because you're setting up shots, you're creating narrative sequences with frames visually. So it's, in a way, making a graphic novel, which is what I'm doing now, it's like making a storyboard for a film. So yeah, once we get further along with the screenplay, then I think I'll also start drawing storyboards and creating visual concepts for the film as well.
What is your biggest fear?
Biggest fear is not being able to accomplish the things that I want to do. That something will happen and that I'll be unable to do the projects that I've set my heart on.
So an artist like you has fears. So I thought that all artists actually have less fears.
Yeah, but my fear is either if I would die or get really sick before I could finish the projects that are in my head that I want to create.
Okay, but you're still very young, so you
yeah,
still have
I hopefully it's yeah.
Oh, I'm sure of that. Yeah. I'm sure you will make it.
Yeah.
What's your family name, by the way?
James, Max James. Yeah.
I thought it. I thought you're, you know, you have two names, two first names.
No,
Oh,
James
so
is my
that's-
last name. Max James.
You're not related to Henry James.
No, no. But my dad is a huge Henry James fan. My dad really likes Henry James. I like Henry James too. He's a good writer.
But unfortunately not related. Did you check
No, not.
already?
I don't think there's any
No?
relation. No. I think my most enjoyable moment was when I went to Korea to do a show for This Is Never That, and I was only there for like 4 days, but it was really nice. They treated us really nicely. They put us in a nice hotel.
In Asia, you're
In
king of
Asia.
king.
And that was my first time ever in Asia, so it was a really new, it's like a different world. Definitely a very interesting experience. I never would have done it if it weren't for modeling. And the fascinating thing also, I flew, it was the end of my semester in Cambridge, so I flew from London to Seoul. I was there for 4 days, and then I flew from Seoul to New York to see my family. And then at the end of the vacation, I flew back to England, so I went around the world.
But you were not alone when you flew to Korea, right? You were not alone as a model. Were you with other
there were a bunch of
models?
other models on the
So
flight
you were
as
not
well,
alone.
yeah.
And did you ever appear as a cover boy in a magazine?
I did. I was on the cover of a magazine.
Which magazine?
It was a Japanese magazine called Gap Men Press.
Oh, that's good.
So I was on the cover of that. It was a photo from a runway show, but they put it on the cover.
That is very good since you already have experience. Maybe I can also. You have still those photos, right?
Yeah, I have the magazine. I still have a
Very
copy of the magazine.
Very good. What was the last thing that made you cry?
Oh, jeez. The last thing that made me cry.
When you didn't make it to Prada.
No,
Just joking.
I don't really. Sometimes I don't really cry that often.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I cry when I'm on an airplane, and sometimes just watching a film on an airplane, and I start crying. I don't know what it is about being on an airplane.
Watching a film, you mean?
Yeah, watching it. I've cried. I think probably the most recent time was, I don't even remember what film. Probably some really silly film. But just being on an airplane and and it makes me I think, and I've read some kind of scientific study that there's some scientific reason that this is more likely to happen on an airplane.
Do you have any idol?
Yeah, I guess a couple. I mean, some of the great artists. Since I'm doing cartoons, comics, like Robert Crumb is a big one. Mobius, the French comics artist, for that in terms of that world, and then probably some of the great filmmakers like Martin Scorsese, and also some of the great comedians. I'm a big fan of a comedian, Tim Heidecker. He's one of my idols, I think, just because of the type of comedy he created, and yeah, just creating new worlds that didn't exist before. That's something that inspires me.
If you could for one day, be somebody else, who would this person be? Just for one day.
Well, that's an interesting question, but in a way, if I was someone else, I would just be, I wouldn't be myself anymore. I would be that
But
person.
just for one day, any person that you
But
like,
do I
dead or alive.
But I still retain my memory. I'm still me somehow, and
Yeah.
that person at the same time. I don't know. Maybe Jimi Hendrix. I don't know.
Why Jimi Hendrix?
I don't
Nice
know.
to hear that.
Just that's another, just a cool guy from history.
So you love everything, practically everything. You love
Yeah, I like music.
you love
I like music as
literature,
well, and
you love
I also
painting.
make music sometimes. I also as a hobby, not professionally,
The
but
difficulty with when you have so many talents
yeah,
is you cannot concentrate on
yeah,
one.
it's true.
That is actually a disadvantage.
It's true.
You know, the jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope you don't become like that.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And recently, it's been more. I've kind of realized this recently, so I say, I have my priorities. I have my priorities, and then I usually just play music now when certain friends of mine, if I visit them or if they visit me, then we play music together, and that's also fun.
But of the so many talents you have, which you think is you excel?
I would say
Really?
as a writer,
As a writer.
as a writer. Yeah.
A screenwriter, or
Just-
a screenwriter, or a story writer, or
I guess just story writer in general, and just like a creator, creating concepts, creating worlds. So
this is why
that's
you should concentrate.
that is, yeah, and I think combining it with the
More
drawing
than
is
the
good
same.
because I also find like drawing is something I've been doing since I was a little kid, and so it's when I think of a story, it's also very much visual. It's not just words. So I like combining. That's why film. That's why I'm gravitating towards film, because that combining visual storytelling and with written text is it's definitely something that appeals to me.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Max. So I just didn't meet a model, but I met somebody who is special.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Very
I'm not
talented.
hyping myself up too much.
But you speak naturally. I mean, you don't sound like haughty
Yeah.
or what is angry, conceited.
Mhm.
Not at all.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad because I still have a lot of things to learn. I still have a long way to go. But
Because
Yeah.
because when you really don't sound conceited. That's very good. Thank you very
okay,
much, Max.
Thanks.
Shall I call you Max?
Max
or,
is Max.
or
is
Max James. Max.
Max. Some people do call me Max James. Yeah.